Figured I'd do a little recap here. Been a minute. So about a week ago, last Monday, working on that frame right there, tacking it all together, and residual fuel from that line that was on the ground lit. And I took my wet towel and put it on the flame that was on the ground, unbeknownst to me, where the fuel was dripping out of the line on my hand. So it could have been a lot worse. Point to note, there's no fire extinguishers around. Everything is very sandy. I was able to extinguish my hand relatively quickly. Again, it was like an instant thing. My wife pulled in, lifted the welding helmet up. There was a flame underneath the bike. Pulled the wet towel out, put it onto the flame. Gas on the hand, it lit. Pulled out. Hand in the sand. Took off a little bit of skin. It's a lot better than it looks. Could have been a lot worse. So that's kind of kicked me in the nuts. That's hard to, that's a bad mistake. That's, you don't even like to say that. But learn from my stupid. Gas tank was out. Yeah, just a couple few drips. It doesn't take much. I was being safe. I had a wet towel. I was covering my wires and my plastics and yeah. Anyway. So yeah, like I said, that kind of kicked me in the nuts, and everything just kind of got, like, it literally left exactly the way it was. So haven't been doing too much. Have not been doing it too much. That being said, the Turbo 80's got some nasty dog there's got a leak in the fuel tank, the top of the fuel tank, because it has rained over the last week reasonably well. And of course, my freaking I went to start it yesterday, and I'm getting water into my fuel line, so the top of the tank has to have a leak in it. Working on the dash, digital dash, EFI interface, Raspberry Pi dash. Don't even know that I'll be, like, quote unquote using the dash, but having the Pi on the bike as a logger, as a full-time logging device, and auto shutdown, sequence, startup, blah 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 blah. My Pi's USB ports are fried. Have to use a USB-C port for any type of device. So, like keyboard, mouse. So I've been having to do installs headless. Okay, which is fine. Now on the there's TS Dash. I found another one called Pi Dash that runs on Diet Pi OS, and then of course there's the Raspberry OS. Now I installed the TS Dash, had that running on SSH and VNC, and it just seemed really clunky, really clunky. I did not like to respond. Raspberry responds, but then I started looking into getting the I/O working, and I can't actually get the I/O working on Raspberry Pi because of the depreciation of the GPIO library. So that's with TS Dash. Now the GPIO IO library is installed and yada yada yada. I don't know any of this stuff, so I'm like clunking my way through it, right? And it's like, you know, a pile of wires and chips and 3 different images and going config text and stuff like that. So I got to use the USB-C for keyboard, mouse, hub. Then I got to power it through the header, and then you gotta edit the config so that it actually makes the USB-C a host instead of a device. I mean, you know, it's a non-trivial. It should be easier, but it is what it is. It just, you know, I mean, something to do. Can't really like work my hand a whole lot without like stretching it and tearing and you know, the good stuff. So yeah, got to start working on a firmware for an Arduino to do pulse width modulation for the fuel pump pressure switch, pressure gauge, fuel pressure gauge, not even a gauge, sensor, so I can have a gauge and log it, and then through that Arduino, I mean, control it, right? Yeah, because I mean, this is gonna be a voltage drain. That pump is big. I want to get a smaller one on there. Need to build a different, I mean, I guess I just build a freaking fuel tank. One thing at a time.